Thanks for tuning into our seller interview series. Up to date, we've got a software business for sale in the gaming and computer niche. Created in July 2015, this business makes $6,691 per month in net profit, and the listing number for this site is 40620. Now, we do these interviews to give potential buyers more information about both the seller and the sites they're looking to purchase. We hope these insights are helpful for you in making a buying decision. We got the seller with us today to go through the business. I cover everything from niche selection to traffic and monetization. Now, before I get into the actual questions, for our viewers out there listening in, I want to just give a quick summary of the business. As I mentioned earlier, the business was built in July 2015. The total monthly revenue is $7,454, and that is over a 7-month average, with expenses sitting at $764 for that total net profit of $6,691. Now, with the sale also includes the domains, the server, which includes all the source code, the website code, database, emails, etc. And obviously the seller will handle nearly all the transfer process as they're very familiar with this business. So thank you for coming on. Can you tell me a little bit about your background? Is this your first online business, or do you have a background in running and starting other online businesses?
Okay, my background was initially in the world of information security and everything IT related. And for the past 10 or 11 years, I've been working for myself, building different softwares and different website communities. And I've built and exited probably 10 businesses in the past 10 or 11 years.
Wow, that's awesome. How did you come up with an idea like this?
I've been a computer gamer nearly all my life. And when I play video games, I encounter problems. My computer's too slow or something doesn't run right. And because of my background is very technical, I usually do a lot of digging into that to figure out what's going on. And through that process, I come up with ideas of how to make things faster, run better, for people to collaborate, whatever it is. And then I build it. So whatever I think would help me and my friends as a gamer, I will then build it to help me and my friends. And then usually it ends up being exposed to other people and they end up liking it. And then it kind of turns into a business from there.
That's pretty awesome. I'm actually a gamer myself. Well, I don't know if I call myself much of a gamer. I haven't gamed in a while, but I'm still looking forward to playing Witcher 3 once I finally get a PS4 or a computer that can run it.
Definitely, it's a fun game.
Yeah, so for someone that's just coming into this business and maybe they're not really familiar with this style of business, maybe they're not super familiar with online businesses in general, could you just briefly describe how this business makes money?
Oh, absolutely. Essentially, there is a website and then a marketplace where the software is sold. So a person can go to this website or to this marketplace. They can look at the software. There's videos, screenshots, lots of descriptions. And they can say to themselves as a gamer, do I think this software would work for me? And then they make that decision. They click the buy button. They install the software. It's very easy to use. They run the software. Then they play their games. They have more fun playing their games. It runs smoother, runs better. And when you play a video game such as Witcher 3, it's very important to be immersed in that game, to take part in the world that you're playing in. And when your computer slows down or something doesn't run right, it removes that full immersive quality of playing that video game. So for me, people will go to, or for my product, people will go to the website or the market that it's on, and they will feel for themselves that their computer maybe isn't running as fast or as good as possible. Then they see my solution and then they get excited because then they can play whatever video game they want to play. They can play it faster and smoother and just enjoy it more. So there are a tremendously large amount of PC gamers that are out there. There's all different types of technology that's out there. There's all different types of games that are out there. And then my software lets all these type of games play better on all these different types of technology. So a person buys it and then plays a video game, and then they have more fun playing the video game. And then they tell their friends about my software, and then maybe their friends will go and get it. And it's basically a piece of software to complement the hobby of playing video games on a computer.
Very cool. So why are you selling the business? Why not keep it and grow? You mentioned you've had several exits before. Is that kind of part of your overall strategy with these projects you build?
Yeah, my main thing, my main hobby and I guess joy of life is to find a problem and then build a solution for it. And so I've been building softwares and websites, like I mentioned, for a long time. And my focus isn't necessarily the marketing of something. I just love taking an idea and creating it into something that's tangible and then putting it out to the world and seeing people use it and enjoy it. So I made the software in July of 2015, and since then I've had some new ideas for new different things to build, and I'm very excited at working on those new things, and the funds from this sale will actually enable me to work on multiple projects at the same time for other things.
Okay, cool. So I guess that answers my next question, if you had any ideas for the money.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like a hobby and like a joy in life. I really enjoy making things that people like and people use. And there are so many different things that can be built. There's so many different ways that computers and video games and whatnot can be made better and more enjoyable. And I like doing design. I like doing development. And this is what I've been doing for a while, and I love it. And so this particular piece of software is an iteration of kind of my history as a developer and my history as an entrepreneur making tools and communities and things for people online.
Very cool. Now, when you first started the business, what was the trajectory of this business? Did you find that you started getting traffic and customers coming in pretty quickly, or did it take a while to build up some traction?
Yeah, the business did exceptionally well the moment that it was launched. It was profitable from the very get-go, extremely profitable from the very get-go. There's kind of a natural affinity, I think, for a gamer to look at this software and then see to themselves, hey, this would help me. And the word of mouth when this first was released was massive. And the marketplace, a tremendously large marketplace, picked up this software immediately. And that alone, with the word of mouth, made the software a hit right off the bat. And it's been doing well ever since it's been launched.
So with all that said, is there anything you learned from this business that you're going to apply to your future sites or your future businesses?
It's a very good question.
Something that just worked really well for you.
I think the thing that I do is I build something, and then I talk to my friends and fellow gamers, and I let them test it and see what they think about it. And if something I do works for me, and then it works for my friends, then I think there's a very high likelihood that it'll work for a greater audience. And so this software was kind of a way to vet that sort of concept. So when I built this software, I initially built it for me. I used it for maybe a month. I spread it out to maybe 10 friends or so, and they used it for a while. They provided feedback on, like, for example, extra buttons or extra features, and then it kind of spread out to a wider and wider audience. And that actually, the wider and wider audience is what led to a lot of refinement in this software. This software has been updated, I would say, maybe 20 or 30 times since it's been released. And every update is has more and more distance between it, because at the very beginning, a lot of people had input into the software, like different features that can make it better and better. And then we're now at this state right now where there's been such massive amounts of input and such refinement that the software is so stable and featureful that people just love it as it is, and it's a great tool. So if I think of lessons learned and what I can do in the future, I think it's really to do what I've did with this software, and that is to build it, listen to the users who use it, integrate feedback, and then have a really rock hard, solid, amazing piece of software.
Yeah, I think having that kind of customer feedback is extremely important, especially in the alpha and the beta stage. You mentioned you had 30 updates. So if someone's looking at this business and maybe they're not technically savvy, or maybe they're not a developer of some sort, is there a team in place, or is there a process that they can go through to make those updates?
This project was, when this project was built, it was built with the intent to be able to have somebody easily take it over. So let's say if it was sold to a company or an entity that doesn't have their own developer, this project will transition to anybody very easily. So while I made the initial version of the software, I brought on a developer to work on this pretty much since July all the way till yesterday, for example.
That's great.
This project comes with a person who's very inexpensive, who's very much a gamer, who I've known for maybe 6 or 7 years, who's very excited about this project transitioning to a new buyer. And there's a whole process in place. There's an invoice. There's a PDF that a person can fill out and send it to this developer and get feedback and have updates. Even though the software is actually incredibly stable, at this point there's not really any updates that I could think of that would be needed. But if a feature wanted to be added, if the community kind of came together and said, hey, this software would be better if it had XYZ, there is absolutely a person in place who can handle every single update of the software. And also, if the buyer needed somebody to help with support, the software has a forum where customers kind of support themselves, but if somebody needed more support, there's actually a person in place who can help with that as well in a very, very affordable way.
Awesome. And to move into traffic and earnings, and by the way, I think that it's really smart of you to bring a developer early on. That definitely gets rid of some of the, buyer phobia, someone who's non-techie but wants this project might have. In terms of traffic and earnings, though, could you give me where your traffic is coming from? Now you have the marketplace listing, but you also have your own site. So is most of the traffic or your buyer traffic coming from like organic, like Google, or is it social? Where is it coming from?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And I'll say right up front that I am more a designer and inventor and developer. I'm less a marketing type of person. So the bulk of all traffic and sales occur from this marketplace where the software is sold. There's also a website where a person can go and make a purchase as well. However, I've never done anything with SEO. I've never done any linking. I've never done anything to really market the website sales, and I've never done anything SEO or anything otherwise. I'm actually, it's an area that I want to grow personally to be able to do more of the marketing and more of the SEO type of thing. It's maybe an upside to a buyer if they're knowledgeable with that.
Yeah, I was just about to say that it could be a very large potential for a buyer that is familiar with SEO or paid traffic or social or anything like that. How stable are the earnings? So do you think that they fluctuate, or do they tend to stay pretty much the same month after month?
Yeah, they have two bits of fluctuation. So there's kind of two answers. One is that there is a monthly stable revenue that comes in every single month. And the second part of the answer is that I put this software on sale every couple months. And I do a little bit of marketing on one website. And by a little bit of marketing, I mean I have a banner and it has some verbiage and it links to the marketplace where the software is sold. I advertise on one website and one website only. I'm really not too knowledgeable about setting up advertisements, but I found one website that works well. And there are a tremendously large amount of internet websites that have to do with video games out there. So
to say the least, yeah.
it's probably one of the larger things on the internet that a person can advertise to. But as far as the answer to the question, there's a certain stable amount of sales that it does every single month, regardless of anything. But then every other month, there's generally a pretty large uptick in sales. And that's because the software has a discount that lasts about a week, and that discount happens every 2 months. And then in addition to that, there's another source of an uptick of sales, and that's an uptick as far as like holiday sales. There's a certain discount that's offered around the holidays, a certain discount that's offered when summer happens. There's a certain discount that's offered with generally certain seasonal events. So the answer is there's a nice steady sales, but then there's also upticks that happen roughly every month, every 2 months, which is really nice.
Nice. Moving into the opportunities that a buyer might have, let's pretend that you're not going to sell this business and you decide you wanted to keep growing it. What would be the least risky thing you would do to grow this business?
I think the answer is really easy, and it's to learn more about marketing. I advertise. So there is a website that exists, and it's a person can go there right now and buy the software, but I don't really do anything to promote that. I don't do any linking or really anything. And so if I wanted to think of the least risky way to grow sales, it would be to do a lot of marketing to the actual website, and then also to do more advertising. I advertise in one website, and it's extraordinarily profitable. So, there's the whole world is your oyster as far as finding places to advertise. So if somebody was familiar with that. I've also done the programming. There's a third website for this product, and that website is set up to integrate with ClickBank. So if a person was familiar with affiliate marketing and how that process works, the programming has already been done for all of that to happen.
Wow, that's pretty awesome. So it's not live on ClickBank yet, I'm assuming?
The program is there, but I don't believe it's live. There's no affiliate page. As I understand it, you have to have an affiliate page, and you have to have verbiage for people to promote your product. Then you have to have graphics and email templates, and all those things I'm not very knowledgeable with. But what I can do is I can do the programming to integrate with ClickBank. So I've done all the programming. I had a test ClickBank account. It's all there and ready for somebody who knows how to do affiliate marketing to take over.
That's a pretty awesome opportunity for sure for anyone that does understand affiliate marketing. Now, this might be the same answer, but let's pretend that you were incredibly risky and you wanted to grow the site as quickly as possible. What would you do? I'm assuming you'd still learn the marketing thing, maybe get the ClickBank thing going as well, or maybe there's something else that you would do.
Yeah, if I were to do the little bit of a riskier route, I would probably find large, very, very large websites that exist. There's websites that may have 10 or hundreds of millions of users. there's a lot of very large PC gaming websites. And I would probably contact them and say, hey, I would like to do a giant marketing effort to promote this piece of software, and then work with them on that. And I've seen other products for PC gamers that are promoted in a vast way on very large websites, and there's no reason why software like this couldn't be promoted in that same way.
That's a great idea. I totally agree. What do you think the biggest risks are with this site that a buyer, or with this business rather, that a buyer should be aware of?
Yeah, I was thinking about that a lot, and it's hard to say that whenever a piece of software exists, there's always a risk that it becomes obsolete in the future. This software is very special because computers get faster and faster and faster. However, video games get more and more complex, and they require more and more resources of a computer. So it's like a sliding window. Computers get faster, but video games get harder to play, and then computers get faster again, and then video games get harder to play. And the nice thing about this software is it's agnostic to any video game and really any computer that you use, as long as it's a Windows-based computer. So let's say 5 years down the line or 10 years down the line, computers are probably going to be vastly faster. Games are going to be more and more intense, especially with virtual reality games. But this software is going to perform the same function on a virtual reality game or a supercomputer as it does with computers today. So the traditional risk, and I've made many pieces of software in the past, for other pieces of software I've made, the risk is that your software becomes obsolete because things get faster or better or video games change. But this piece of software is special in that it works with any video game and it works with any type of computer, whether it's a $300 computer or whether it's a $10,000 computer. So the traditional risk with a piece of software I don't think really exists for this.
That's interesting. And yeah, you're right on that too. Computers get faster and games get harder to play. I think that's one of the best sentences I've heard. It's very true. Can you describe the amount and type of work you do to maintain this business?
Yeah, absolutely. So the way this business was built was really from the ground up to be as self-sustaining as possible. And that's kind of my mantra whenever I build any project. And so right now I spend probably varies between 2 to possibly 5 hours a month on this. Sometimes it might go up to 10 hours in a month, but it's usually very, very low. So I would say I average maybe 1 to 2 hours a week on this. And that 1 to 2 hours a week is time spent. I would say maybe an hour of that is setting up advertisements to promote the software on this one website. And even that, sometimes it's more like 1 hour I spend every 2 weeks or so. And then the software has the support forums where a person can ask a question maybe before they buy the software. Or if they're using the software, they might have a question like, how do I best use it with XYZ video game out there? And that forum is generally kind of self-supporting, meaning that users of the software will answer questions that other users of the software might have. However, if it's a question that's not answered right away, I have an actual document where I can just easily cut and paste answers to. And so maybe on a higher end, I might spend an hour a week on that. Sometimes I spend 0 hours for 2 or 3 weeks. But all in all, it's not very much time supporting the software. And I also want to include that a guy that's helped me with development of the software from the very beginning, a contractor that can stay on with this project indefinitely, he can also help with software support. So he can also help with like a half hour or an hour a week answering questions that people have on the forums. So all in all, I would say maybe 2 to 8 hours a month or so working on this, and that's almost exclusively marketing and the very limited amount of support that the software requires. So very little.
So what skills or requirements would you say someone should have for someone that's not familiar with this niche? Anything in particular?
Well, it's very self-sufficient at this point. So I suppose if a person wanted to grow the business, it'd be nice if they had a marketing background or at least some marketing knowledge. However, even that's not required. I'm a very big fan of documenting everything. So I have full documentation of how to do everything that I'm currently doing now. So, for example, I advertise on one particular website. I have full documentation on how to upload a banner, how to create an advertisement, and that whole process. So it's kind of two answers. If a person can just follow the documentation that I have, they almost need very little skill in really anything at all.
That's good.
It's so self-sufficient, and this contractor that I have that'll go with it, he is absolutely a brilliant guy. So, and I love documenting everything. So everything Every single portion of everything with this project has documentation. And in addition, I'm a fan of making video documentation as well. So for a buyer, I will have a video that says, this is how you set up the advertisements. And I will have a video that says, this is how you, if you want to answer customer support questions, this is how you can read a question, find an answer, and copy and paste. So at the minimal, a person just really needs to be able to follow instructions, I guess. Yeah, but if a person wanted to grow the business and do more, just a little bit of a background in marketing, a little bit of knowledge about software, such as a person will give you money and then they'll download a file and then they'll install a file. Just kind of the basics that I think a lot of people have just kind of by default in this day and age. So it doesn't really have much of a requirement, but there's a tremendous upside for people who are knowledgeable with affiliate marketing, marketing in general. This software can potentially be sold on Amazon as well. I'm not very familiar with Amazon, but the development of this software, the kind of the back end for doing the sales, is able to integrate with any marketplace such as Amazon. So if a person was familiar with marketing, affiliate marketing, Amazon, SEO, then the upside for the software is tremendous.
Very cool. And very briefly, you mentioned before this call, this program could also be used for people outside of gaming, such as graphic designers. Could you go just very brief detail about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was never my intent for anybody other than gamers to use the software. However, I started to notice a trend. I started to notice people posting reviews saying that the software sped up video editing, that the software sped up using Photoshop and Adobe products to do graphic design. And there's people who use this software for other things. There's a person in the police force, for example, who uses this software. There's people who use this software for doing database design and database rendering, like grabbing huge database files and processing them. And then a lot of video editing, graphic design.
That's cool. That has so many multiple functions to expand beyond just a single niche. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
So to wrap it up here, just a few more questions. Would you be willing to sign a non-compete that basically said, hey, look, I'm not going to go out there and create this exact same software after you buy this from me?
Yeah, absolutely. It's almost a matter of honor with myself. I build these businesses to be successful for whoever the buyer is. And I've been in this industry for a very long time. And I think it's very important to have trust and to do the right thing. And when I build this software, it's built from the ground up and it's built to transfer to somebody else. And then I personally move on to something else. This niche of PC gamers is tremendously large and there is a vast amount of potential in so many different areas of it. And so for me, I want to make this a successful business for somebody, whoever should acquire it. And that's going to include their comfort knowing that I'm not going to compete with them at all.
Yeah, that makes sense. It sounds like you're going to offer quite a bit for a buyer with all the documentation, including the video documentation of your processes. But how much support are you willing to offer buyers? Are you looking at a 30-day email support, or what are you looking at?
Yeah, well, the first thing I want to do is make sure that this is successful for the buyers, but I also want to make sure that it's a solid product for the customers that do use it. It's more than money for me. I really enjoy this market and I really enjoy the users, and I want to make sure that everybody is treated fairly and everything goes well for everybody. So with that said, what I've done in the past is I've done 30 days of support for the buyer, whatever questions they have, and also 5 hours of phone support. And that's in addition to the whole transferring of this whole thing. So the way I like to do things is I have a very nice checklist to make it as easy and seamless and stressless for a buyer as possible. That includes me setting up whatever servers need to be set up, me working with the buyer on whatever accounts that need to be set up, for example, a PayPal account or whatever things are needed to send emails. I want to work with the buyer on setting up this whole thing and transferring everything. And then when that's successfully done, in addition to that, I want to make sure that the buyer has a month of support for whatever questions that the buyer may have.
Very cool, man. That's awesome. You're willing to offer them support. As far as being open to a split or an earn-out goes, obviously the best case scenario for you and for Empire Flippers, someone comes and buys this outright for the full listing price. But would you be open to something like 70% up front and 30% on closing, or perhaps after hitting certain training goals? Would you be at all open to something like that?
That's a good question, and it was a tough question. I thought about this for a while, and I think with the projects that I have going on and the direction of the funds that I would allocate and where they'd be spread out, I think it would be better and it would establish a little bit of a comfort level for me to be able to have all the funds for the sale up front.
Yeah, that makes sense. Before I ask you the final question here, I just want to remind everyone out there a quick summary of this business. It was built in July 2015, has a monthly revenue of $7,454, with expenses sitting at $764, a net profit of $6,691, and that is over a 7-month average. And obviously, with the sale includes the domain, servers, and all the source code, the website code, database, emails, etc., as well as the relationship with the gaming marketplace that we talked about. And the seller just mentioned he'll handle nearly all the transfer process. He has a checklist down. So before we wrap out this interview, what is your best pitch in 30 seconds or less on why someone should purchase this business?
Well, I think the software business is a great business to be in because you can scale in a nearly unlimited way without having to scale the work effort involved with delivering a product. And so if you were to sell shoes on a marketplace, you have to source shoes, you have to maintain a quantity, you have to do extra work for a physical product. I think a software is a fantastic business because you can sell 100 copies or you could sell 10,000 copies and it's virtually the same amount of effort and expenses. So I think a software business is great, especially if somebody has a marketing background, affiliate marketing background, SEO background, because it's one of those businesses where your knowledge and intelligence can scale it without having to actually have like a physical product and the risks associated with a physical product.
Yeah, absolutely. That is one of the huge benefits and beauties of software is you can just scale it to the moon and back. So for people out there watching this or listening to it, if you're watching this on YouTube or Dailymotion or somewhere else, and you want more information about this business and software, the link will be below this video. It'll take you to our marketplace listing. But if you're watching this on our actual listing and you want more information, you can become a depositor today. It's super easy. All you have to do is click Make a Deposit, and we'll send you more information. So thank you for coming on. It was an absolute pleasure and super interesting business.
Yeah, great. It was nice talking to you.